gentlemen, to BTC Body Slam the Competition presents our Raw recap show. I am Ray, and with us as always, or with me as always, for our recap Monday show, is Chris Adams. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing great tonight, Ray. How are you doing? Hopefully feeling better from yesterday.
Very much so. I'd like to apologize for the listeners about last night. I would have loved to be here for the prediction show first and foremost about, this week has just been chaotic. Seeing, a guy that was like my adopted dad, hadn't seen him in almost 20 years, and it was his 63rd birthday. And then yesterday, wasn't feeling too great. But I would have loved to be there for both weekend shows. It was a pretty good pay-per-view, in my opinion. Could have been better, but I'm glad I got to see Roman Reigns get destroyed. But tonight was interesting, needless to say. Tonight was a pretty decent Raw for what it was worth. And the ending was just we're definitely going to get to the ending tonight. And there's a lot I want to say about that.
Absolutely. It wasn't a bad show. I didn't get to see the entire thing, as I mentioned to you earlier. I did get to watch a lot of it, but not actually listen to it, unfortunately. The TV was on where I could see things that were happening. And I did get to hear bits and pieces of it, but unfortunately, and I was kind of sad about this, I didn't get to hear a lot of the talks that were going on. So whenever some of the stuff that we'll touch on later, like when Seth Rollins came out for the interview or whatever the case may be, people like that, I did miss out on a lot of the talks. So hopefully you can bring me up to speed here on what they had to say, and we'll go from there.
Most definitely. I feel that as much as the WWE is branching out first and foremost, and I feel that at one point they may have done it, I don't recall, I was little back then, but they need to do something like purchase airtime for the radio and have not only the commentary for, television, but dub it for the radio as well. So if you're driving, you can't physically see what's going on, you get play-by-play like you would a football game, a baseball game, a hockey, so on and so forth. I think that should be something they should branch into, because then you could just put earbuds in and work and listen to what's going on.
Well, I think that's going to happen because according to Mike, who is not here with us, Mike's not always here during the Monday and Tuesday night recap shows, but according to Mike, they listen to our show and take ideas that we say on here. So I'm just going to throw it out there now. Don't be surprised in less than a year's time if we don't get word that there is a radio spot, just like Ray's talking about. Don't be surprised. Vince McMahon knows we're wise in our ways. He listens to the show. Well,
by then it'll probably be Hunter doing it, but either way. Yeah, we know where Mike's at. Mike's busy with his hot wife.
That's right. Mike, as everybody knows, all our listeners know, for the last couple of shows, we've had Mike and quote-unquote, Mike and the hot wife on the show as has been introduced each time. And she has made it known publicly. She's a huge fan of Alexa Bliss. I can say that now because she's not here to deny it, and that's awesome. But we had a great weekend, Ray, and really, once again, sorry you couldn't make it. It was really fun. You would have enjoyed the two shows we had with the prediction show and the recap show, but on to Raw tonight. Let's go ahead and get down to it and talk about some Raw action from earlier.
Hey, sounds great. So, first of all, Raw kicked off with the entire women's roster. Now, I did not notice or realize that the women's roster on Raw is bigger than SmackDown. So you have 8 competitors on Raw. You have Bayley, Alicia Fox, or as Noam Dar likes to call her, Alicia Fox.
Fox.
Fox. Sounds like he's trying to say Alicia Fox. Oh, I should wash my mouth. Sasha Banks, Nia Jax, Emma, Dana Brooke, Mickie James, all standing in a ring with a podium. And they're all waiting for Alexa Bliss to come out. Because she is the new Raw Women's Champion, first ever, to hold the women's on SmackDown and on Raw. So she comes out for her coronation, and even though Kurt Angle had to force some of them to be there, so to speak, all the women's roster for Raw was in attendance. Alexa first, in her what seemed to be a very friendly promo in some aspects. She thanked Mickie James, who she brought to SmackDown Live, thanked her, sarcastically thanking her for inspiring her every day through her contemporaries of Mae Young and Fabulous Moolah, who were in a better place, and I quote, in a better place.
Yeah, she did say that.
She did, and that was, in my opinion, that was kind of a kick to the teeth of the women's division. But Alexa turns to Sasha. Well, she said she wants to thank the next person. You see her start going towards Bayley, but then turns to Sasha and thanks Sasha, whom she said she already had beaten to get where she is. And finally, she turns to Bayley, who she's beaten the night before. And she sarcastically states that she was not sorry for her dad and her family and her friends who had to see her get humiliated. But in the same turn, stated that now her two nephews who were crying at ringside have a new person to look up to. And Bayley basically couldn't take it anymore and attacked Alexa, and a brawl just ensued in the ring.
Now that part, I did get to see the beginning of it. I did get to hear the speech that she gave. I felt it was very heartfelt and sincere, very warm. She was all just trying to be nice, the real true women's champion, how that she should portray herself. Ray, come out there and thank all the little people.
Off Alexa? Can you just get off Alexa? Because she's not even on you.
She had to thank all the little people that helped her get there, man. Look, you left out one of the funny parts.
She's
she turns around and bumps into
roster.
Oh, yeah, 5 feet of fury. But the champion, though, that's all that matters in the end.
She has Napoleon syndrome, okay?
Look, you forgot to mention the funny part. She turns around and bumps into Nia Jax and goes, we're good. We're good. Nothing wrong.
Right. I got no problems with you. We're tagging later.
Yeah, we're tagging later. We're all good. We're fine, But right. You know what? We talked about this weekend. This is one of the reasons why I'm really sorry that you missed the shows that we were in this weekend, because you missed all what we had to say about the old Bayley Alexa Bliss match that was done and everything and all the other matches. But we all talked about how I don't know if the crowd's truly turning on Bayley as much as just some of the people are. She still has her fans out there. She's gonna have those young kids wearing the ponytails, and they're always gonna be, all hug life and everything.
She doesn't have the following she did.
No, not as much anymore, and it's because that glow's worn off. That little shiny luster she had to begin with for a while when she beat Charlotte a couple of times, and everybody's all behind her. Well, she come out there and she talks about how she'd set all these goals in her diary and all these things, and this is what it's all about. And she's finally reached all her goals in wrestling. Now she won the title. She headlined. She went to WrestleMania. She did this and that, and now we're sitting here looking, and now she finished all your goals. What else is there now? You're just going to come out and be there every week? Because now she's like she has nothing she has to really compete for. No real strong goal, and plus the whole. Girl next door with the ponytails, all-American girl reading from her diary, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of gotten old to people. It's kind of a little, not really sour taste in their mouth, but just old.
Oh, no, I've already stated that. It's getting old. The only good thing about her anymore is her ass. Speaking of which, did you see that match? Did you see that
Jello.
women's match on oh, my God, it jiggled so nicely.
It's all Jello.
Bill Cosby would have been proud.
I almost pulled up my bad Bill Cosby impersonation. I thought about it for a half second, then thought better. Not going to do it. But the thing is, man, you get there and you listen to her, and then you get people that come out, anyone from Sasha Banks even to Mickie James, or now Alexa Bliss, who we all know Alexa Bliss is great on the mic, gets out there and just makes the girl next door thing that she has not good anymore. It was fine because you had Charlotte, the queen almighty of the women's division. She's royalty.
Alexa turned around and said flat out that the queen is dead.
Yes. And then she's high on her podium up there, though, was she not? high on that podium, looking down on the rest of them around her, basically. But that's the reason why people are not behind Bailey so much as they are. They're not really behind Alexa Bliss as much as they are not behind Bailey. Does that make sense?
Makes plenty of sense.
So I mean, that's how I look at it and everything. So I think the whole Bailey's not gone stale or anything like that to people. It's just that it's not as cool to back her as it was before because that little shiny luster is worn off and the newness is gone, and now it's just Bailey.
Well,
and you've got
that,
someone like Alexa Bliss who's made a habit of taking her titles from her over the years.
Right, but I feel that the Raw's women's division has lost its luster since Charlotte left. But that's how I feel. But I mean, it set everything up, for a 8 diva tag.
Right.
And you had Alexa and Bailey starting the match off. Soon, Alexa tags in Emma, Mickie James, respectively, because Alexa don't want to deal with Mickie James. Mickie hits Emma, with a couple kicks and everything, tags in, or Emma tags in Alicia Fox, and Dana Brooke gets tagged in, and it's battling back and forth. It's really, in my opinion, wasn't much action. It was just a lot of tags. And you come back to the match, because you end up in a commercial break like always. At one point, Alicia tags in Nia Jax, who starts dominating people. And Alexa gets tagged back in. And in the long run, the Alexa Bliss, Emma, Nia Jax, Alicia Fox defeated Bailey, Sasha, Mickie James, and Dana Brooke. Emma wanted no part of Dana Brooke. I feel that's going to be a feud that's going to come into play big time. I've called it already. Alicia, I don't even know what she's really doing there anymore, but the match just, I don't know. It was lackluster. It was your typical starter match.
It was kind of. There was nothing to really get the crowd excited when it comes to the match, to be honest with you. I mean, like you said, there was definitely some quick tags in and out, especially on the face side of the women's division. They're tagging in and out. They were taking advantage of that. When Nia Jax got in, as usual, you'd expect she would dominate and make it hard on the opposition there. But when they all started getting out of control and flying everywhere, at the end, one person stood not quite so tall, but for the second time in 2 nights, she has pinned Bailey. And that just makes it look that much worse on Bailey right there. And I don't know what they're trying to achieve from it. I'm not trying to say they're doing it wrong, because I like Alexa Bliss. I want her to win anyway. But, I mean, to me, you've got your champion going into the pay-per-view. She loses to Alexa Bliss. Unless you just want to portray Alexa Bliss as being the better athlete than Bailey after you built Bailey up so big, knocking off Charlotte several times, essentially you're kind of saying that Alexa would knock off Charlotte.
But
in a way.
In case she could do the same thing with beating Sasha Banks.
Right. And I think that's where they're going to be, probably where they'll be headed to pretty soon, is Sasha Banks could get that title.
Right, but it's going to come down to this. It's going to come down to, in the long run, Bailey's going to fall down the roster just like so many previously have. I mean, you look at Alicia Fox. Alicia Fox is a former Divas champion. I mean, granted, the division was not what it is today, but it's one of those, she got her title, she worked her way up, but now it's going to just turn into her just being another body, so to speak, on the roster.
Let me ask you a question when it comes to the women's division here. We know there's going to be more shakeups come up again soon. That's been brought up before. Do you think that any way they will bump Bailey over to SmackDown since they took Charlotte there? Will they take Bailey as well, you think?
Yeah, they're gonna move them around big time. And just like I think eventually Carmella's going to end up on Raw, and she's going to end up back with Enzo and Cass, I feel. because
that's if
now
they keep Enzo and Cass together.
Right, but now see that's going to lead us into the next segment, in my opinion, because they're lacking something, and they're not getting the pop that they were when they had Carmella. I understand having a manager is your typical heel move. I get that, because there's always going to be that chance for outside interference or just distractions in general.
Don't forget you had Lita with the Hardys, and they weren't heels. So, I mean, it's always possible. Paul Ellering with the Legion of Doom. It's possible to have a tag team with a manager and not necessarily be a heel. So they can definitely pull it off.
Yeah, but that distraction's always there, and that's room for the possible heel.
But you know what, though? I wouldn't be mad about it if they did.
What, Carmella going to Raw?
Well, Carmella going to Raw and them two going heel, Enzo and Cass. I wouldn't be mad about it if they did. I mean, they would be just as entertaining as heels as they would be right now as faces.
It would more or less be the same thing. I mean, they would probably throw some more zings and, smack talker Skywalker into it. But I don't know. It's something that, again, is going to have to be watched and paid attention to. But like I said, that moves us into our next segment, which was Enzo against Luke Gallows, which now I called the match, or I was actually shocked by the match because I thought Enzo and Cass were going to lose at Payback, but they didn't. But as Enzo and Cass were in the ring cutting their promo, they get attacked from behind. And they get attacked by, Gallows and Anderson. And Gallows is pretty much in control as soon as the match begins. Gallows hits his big boot before stomping the living hell out of Enzo. Enzo, misses a drop kick before Gallows can turn around and put him in the side armbar. Gallows continues to pretty much, make a fool of Enzo. And Enzo's trying to desperately fight back. In the long run, Enzo takes brief control, but gets nailed with a vertical suplex and tries to get a 2 count. But Anderson then distracts Enzo to help Gallows get the win. Plants his powerbomb. So Luke Gallows ends up defeating Enzo. I really didn't think they were going to put Enzo over on this one.
No.
Especially because of the size difference.
Right. I mean, it's you got to keep it somewhat believable now. Unless you got a cheap roll-up win, I could see that happening. But and almost they almost pulled it off, but they didn't.
Right.
But I mean, that's the only way I could see that coming out as a win for Enzo. Otherwise, it would take Big Cass getting involved with it, and I'm sure they don't want to, give up that little whole face gimmick right now and get him involved in a cheap way for a win either. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a feud. They're going to feud those two teams out for a little while, realistically, because they don't have much going on. And like we've all agreed, the only thing that's going to help Enzo and Cass in the long run is either turning them heel or splitting them up.
As much as I hate to say it, Ray, I'm all for splitting them up. I really hate it because I like the two of them, but I think Enzo would just benefit for the 205 Live group or going into management. One of the two. I've been saying it for a long time, and I'm sticking with it. I mean, he'd be a hell of a manager.
Well, if Enzo goes into management, it's very slim pickings on who you can put him with because of his style of mic talk, his style of smack talk, so to speak. He's not a Paul Heyman. You could put Paul Heyman with anybody. But Enzo, it's not like you could turn around and say, well, I'm going to put Enzo with Roman Reigns. I'm going to put Enzo with AJ Styles. I'm going to put Enzo with Braun Strowman, Luke Harper. It's not going to work.
Although they're not going to give Roman Reigns a mouthpiece anyway. That's just everybody can give that up. That's not going to happen.
Right, but I'm using that as an example because there's guys that you just cannot put them with.
I don't know much about the style as being a factor in it. as much as, I mean, the one that truly he would fit with as far as, well, it's not really an appearance factor either. I mean, think about it, because your guest this past Friday, Sonny Ono, had some people that were not quite. They were very much different from him too. I mean, him and Ernest the Cat Miller didn't quite go hand in hand together. And then he said Bull Nakano, wasn't it? And she didn't really fit well to with him either. Didn't look like, as far as appearances go, but different style of managements also. He wasn't a huge talker.
Well,
and Enzo
you remember
was a big
Sonny?
talker.
Yeah, but you remember Sonny wore a suit to the ring.
Right. Enzo's going to come down there. Well, they could change the way Enzo appears. The question is, if you change his overall appearance, how much of it do you have to take away to bring him down a notch or two, and yet still have him keep that slick tongue when he talks? So,
right.
I don't know. I mean,
it's a real tough call.
It is. I think he'd do well, is because he can talk like nobody else. But I guess what you're saying, it's kind of slim pickings on who to put him with. He's probably better off just going to 205 Live and competing.
Exactly. Well, speaking of competing, our next segment rolls into Seth Rollins coming out to address the WWE. You know what? I'm just going to say it. To address the fans. Because to me, it will always be the fans, not the universe.
Right.
Seth comes out, and thanks the fans for being with him for the past 6 months or whatever it was. He told the fans, that he's looked in the mirror and realized that he's still Seth Rollins, and everything's coming full circle from last month. He defeating Triple H to him beating Samoa Joe. He said there's one thing left for him to do, and that's to face Brock Lesnar. Well, he said that he's been to Suplex City, and he's not afraid to go back. Finn Balor's music then hits. Balor comes out. He tells Rollins how he beat him with one shoulder injured the entire match, and still beat him for the Universal Championship. Two of them come nose to nose, face to face, and all of a sudden Dean Ambrose's music hits. And he comes out, and he said he's ready to fight at any time, anywhere. And all of a sudden, his biggest adversary right now comes out, and that's The Miz. So he comes out, calls Ambrose an imposter, basically, being lazy and not being a proper champion, demanding his title back. He wants the Intercontinental title back because he said he defended it on a nightly basis, which, again, Ambrose doesn't do. And stating how Ambrose didn't even defend the title at Payback, which is, again, true. Raw had, 2 championships defended at Payback. No Universal Championship, no Intercontinental Championship. Universal Championship hasn't even been in the glimpse of anything in the past month.
No,
over a month.
It has not. And we brought that up over the weekend about how you could have a pay-per-view, even if it's not one of your 4 or 5 major ones, but how can you have a pay-per-view that's Raw specific if you don't even have your Raw champion on there?
Right, yet you have the SmackDown champion on there. Well, The Miz turns around and says that he's the reason everyone hates him, and he's the biggest threat on Raw. And he's pointing the other ones, and he tells them all to shut up. Well, at that point, Dean Ambrose takes his phone now and calls Kurt Angle. And it's funny because Kurt Angle's like, yeah, sorry, Mick Foley gave me this. I hope you don't mind. And he's discussing something with him. He goes, so Seth Rollins says, well, what did he say? And he says, yeah, he's a little pissed that I have his phone number. But he made a match for the night, the main event. Finn Balor versus The Miz versus Seth Rollins to become the number 1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, I felt that was an interesting one because you've never seen Ambrose and Balor. Rollins and Ambrose, they've always had great matches.
Right.
And then you got The Miz and Ambrose, it's always great seeing them going. But that sets up for the main event tonight. Now, next match, you have Tony Nese Brian Kendrick, and Noam Dar versus Rich Swann, Akira Tozawa, and Jack Gallagher. And Jack Gallagher came out with 3 umbrellas. One for himself and one for his teammates, which was quite comical. The match was pretty good for what it was. I'm going to try to do what they can to showcase, the cruiserweights again. But it started off with Kendrick and Tozawa, back and forth. Tony Nese comes in at one point, blindsides Tozawa. Rich Swann and Noam Dar get tagged in after all of that. Gallagher soon tags himself in off of an Irish whip. All the faces dump all the heels out of the ring. And then, it ends up heading to a commercial break. But when we come back, we see the heels finally, getting Tozawa isolated. And Tozawa finally tags in Rich Swann. It's back between him and Kendrick. He hits a rolling thunder and then tags in Gallagher, who hits a headbutt, his infamous headbutt, for a close pin. But Kendrick then blindsides Gallagher and tries to get him to tap out. But Tozawa comes in and hits him with a Shining Wizard. But it ends with, Swann and Tozawa hitting Tony Nese and Noam Dar with suicide dives as Gallagher hits Brian Kendrick with that running drop kick into the corner for the win. So Rich Swann, Akira Tozawa, and Jack Gallagher defeat Tony Nese, Brian Kendrick, and Noam Dar.
Now, that match is one that I missed. I did see the beginning of it when Gentleman Jack Gallagher come down with the umbrellas. I do remember seeing that. And they all three do the little iconic where he puts it down and kicks it with his foot back up under their shoulder routine. I saw maybe the first 30 seconds to a minute of the match, and then I had to step away for work. So I did miss out on that, which I was kind of upset about a little bit because I do like the 205 Live stuff they're putting out here. I'm probably one of the only guys on the podcast here that does care a lot for it, unless Tim pops in on us and talks, and I know he likes it as well. But I'm really getting into this show. I've been watching the after the fact during the week after it's already been played and everything, and I'm really getting into the whole thing with Akira Tozawa. And Brian Kendrick. That's been kind of keeping my interest and kind of cracking me up in a way, because for weeks on end there, Brian Kendrick will get the better of him and tell him these are lessons he's teaching him each week. And now it's like he's flipped the script on him, and each week Tozawa is now become the teacher, and he's teaching the lessons back to him in order. And I don't know if they've gotten to the end of that yet or not. I forget, but that's been very entertaining to me so far. Now, the thing with Neville and Austin Aries, that's a bigger part of it. We'll talk about that more later, I'm sure. But
yes,
the whole 205 Live bit, I'm really into it. And those guys put on a great match, a great show, I'm sure. And I wish I could have seen all of it. I'm not big on Jack Gallagher. I've always said that, but he's grown on me a little bit more with his in-ring style. He's very entertaining. He's very well versed in wrestling. He's very technical. A lot of people didn't really compare him to Steven Regal, but Regal's name always gets mentioned when you have someone who's English that's a very good wrestler, that's very technical savvy, especially. They always bring up Regal's name with that. But I have enjoyed it, and I wish I could have seen more of that match.
Oh, indeed. I definitely agree. The cruiserweights, I was discussing it with Sonny Ono. The cruiserweights were definitely something to watch back in WCW. And it has lost its luster, and I feel like it maybe because it's not exactly full-blown high-flying like it was back then. There's a lot of technicality now. There's a lot of ground and pound now. There's different aspects of it. But, again, it falls into the styles of, where everybody comes from.
I want to step off topic just for a minute. Not very long at all. I heard your interview with Sonny Ono, and it was great, by the way. I enjoyed listening to it, and I do look forward to him coming back and telling those stories he mentioned for sure. When he mentioned the cruiserweights were there to draw the attention in that 1 hour especially, they would put them in that middle hour to keep people tuning back into them to see what was going on.
The second hour of Nitro to get everybody stuck on
Exactly.
Nitro because they didn't need a storyline because they were more concerned with the action.
Right, and they were all very good, high-paced matches with the action. Everybody loved it, and it's funny that he said that because Graham.
We have mentioned that many times.
I believe it was Mike Graham. It was the kid, and Eddie Graham was the father, I believe. Mike Graham was one of the people there at WCW, along with Kevin Sullivan behind the scenes doing booking and stuff like that. And Mike Graham is on video actually saying that cruiserweights like Benoit, Guerrero, Malenko, Saturn, and Jericho, none of them, he said, drew a dime. They didn't draw any attention on the television set and he knew this because he said that they would look at the ratings during that hour when they were there. They could see that people were turning the channel and not staying on there. And I always found that funny that he said that because those exact same people he mentioned left that company, went to the opposing company, and flourished. They shown, what they could do.
Right.
Most of them did. Dean Malenko chose to go behind the scenes, and Saturn was just let go, I believe, eventually. But
right.
3 of those 5 were some of the top 3 people during their time there. So
right, and even during my interview with Dave Penzer on this past Thursday, we agreed that Chris Jericho is doing some of the best work that he's ever done. Plain and simple.
The list.
Like this
is
just
something else.
This is probably his best run yet in terms of creativity.
Well, I agree completely, no doubt. Did you see the thing where he finally admits that Tom Phillips and the other guy are 2 different people?
Yes, I did, and then that was great as well. Like I loved it. That was definitely hysterical because
I'm gonna tell you something. This is the last thing I'll say, and we'll get back on track. Chris Jericho. This is one of the things that makes him great. When he won the title this past weekend, the U.S. title, and got it back, on his way out, as leaving the ring, there's a kid at ringside that has his own Jericho's list. And he takes it from him, and he signs it for him right there. It looks like it's got like a Y2J signature, something quick. And I thought that was really cool.
I did catch that. I really did catch that because he put his own name on the list.
Right, that was pretty cool that he did that for the kid there at ringside. He took him in and did that. You don't see that from a lot of people anymore. When they go around the ring, they might do a little quick high five or a quick hug. Cena will throw out his wristband or his hat. Put his hat on someone. Enzo will put that little wig extension or whatever on Pete kids' heads and go on. But no one stops and just greets a kid and gives him an autograph. Come on, that's awesome.
Even Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. You never see Brock Lesnar touch the fans, but after he beat Goldberg, this kid reached out to give Lesnar a fist bump, and Lesnar fist bumped the kid and just kept walking.
Mm-hmm. It's little things like that that make these guys great sometimes. But anyway,
right. And speaking of great. It was perfect you said it because speaking of great, this leads us into Sheamus and Cesaro. Now they came out with a different look again. Wasn't the suit tops and the kilts? It was more of a jacket style, like
right.
tough guy jacket kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And they come out and they explain how Sheamus explains how he never liked the fans. Cesaro pretty much states that he adds that the fans are always obsessed with the past and the future, and that they weren't obsessed with new shiny trinkets. Well, Sheamus adds that he and Cesaro are ready to win the titles at WrestleMania. They bring up the whole WrestleMania incident, but the Hardys came out and stole the thunder at the last moment and stole their titles, and said they're coming for the titles. Sheamus basically said the past is the past and it needs to stay in the past, and we are now, and we're coming for the titles. Well, as Cesaro and Sheamus are about to leave, you hear the Hardys' music hit. And Matt and Jeff come out, and, Jeff, missing his tooth, which it's probably back, but that was one hell of a shot, by the way. But
it was. what was your opinion on that shot? Was it legit, or was it just a work there?
I think it was just coincidental.
I mean, it looked like his shin caught him in the mouth, but his foot caught him in the chest.
It was bad timing. That's all it was.
Probably so.
Right. So he comes out and Matt basically says they're tired of the excuses, tired of everything, and they both just looked around. Matt and Jeff looked at them and did the delete sign, and started rushing to the ring, and they cleared out the ring, and Cesaro and Sheamus left. Now, here's the funny thing I noticed, that yesterday Matt Hardy posted on Twitter under his Twitter handle, Meek Mahan brought me the things that I like. And he said, delightful. And I was just like, all right, he called him Meek Mahan. So in lieu of the fact that, I don't know if this was discussed, but it probably wasn't because it was only a review show last night, a recap show. Matt and Jeff, there was an agreement that was come with Impact Wrestling. And they no longer own the rights. Matt and Jeff and the WWE now have the rights to the Broken Hardy gimmick. And they're going to pretty much wait until the title run is over and until the Hardy Boy, the nostalgia wears off. And they're more than likely going to start a feud with Matt and Bray, and branch him into the Broken theme. And they're going to give Jeff a singles run at the main event. I mean, you heard the fans chanting Brother Nero and delete. And obsolete.
Well, the fans will chant anything. They're like, the usual sheeple you see everywhere else. They see something that's popular somewhere. They still chant what? We're crying out loud.
Right.
They still,
but here's the
they
thing.
still
this
do
is the
that.
First
they
time you
still
heard
chant.
them chant.
They still chant CM Punk, and he hasn't been there in years.
Right, but this is the first time you've really heard them chant Brother Nero. This is the first time that anybody has caught any signs of the name Brother Nero in the WWE. And this was the fans chanting Brother Nero. Even when they returned and everything like that, it was all delete, obsolete, delete, obsolete, delete. Not Broken Matter, Brother Nero. And last night was the first time you heard the name Brother Nero on WWE television.
And I'm not much on it. You know me, though. I've already told y'all before I'm not big on the whole broken Matt Hardy, Brother Nero gimmick. I thought it was I never got into it. To me, it was like, I don't know, 6 foot tall Yoda. It's talking in reverse language or whatever. The Express that rock and rolls, whatever. The Day of New. It always try and it's the words backwards. I never understood what was great about it. I mean, and I guess because TNA didn't have a lot of anything great going on anyway, and you had to cheer for something, so they picked that out of it and cheered for that. I just never was a big fan of it. And this pay-per-view, I know you said it yourself, and I was saying Friday night I called it myself too. I said they're going to go ahead and they're going to go heel on them. They're going to beat the crap out of them after the match because they're going to lose it, but they're going to come back on them probably and go heel with their frustration. And I put all over the social media the other night, I said, for all you Hardy marks out there that's been looking for it, there you go. They look pretty broken in the ring to me.
And I've seen that, and I think I liked it or something.
You may have. I don't remember. I don't know. But I was like, they look broken to me. There you go. And I don't know. I mean, I know they're going to do it. Okay, I know they're going to do it. I'm just not looking forward to it. It's all.
Well, speaking of interesting turns, you have our next match, and it's Heath Slater versus Apollo Crews. And they're backstage talking about their kids. Well, Titus O'Neil comes out and says, "Quit talking to the enemy." So Apollo Crews is led to the ring by his new quote-unquote mentor, Titus O'Neil. And the former SmackDown Tag Team Champion, Heath Slater, makes his in-ring Raw debut for the first time since the shakeup. Crews looked really good in the opening stages. Obviously, the speed and strength advantage. Slater hits an early arm drag, but it didn't affect Crews. Cruz hits kicks, and followed by a running clothesline, follows up with, his kick up and his spin out power bomb for the win. And Titus and Apollo Crews are celebrating in the ring. Now, I don't know if they're going to turn Cruz heel or what, but it's weird seeing them paired up together.
I thought it was too. I mean, anything with Titus right now feels weird to me. I was kind of with that Titus push a while back when he was against Rusev, when they were trying to get him out there as a single and make something out of him. I just I don't know if maybe he didn't have enough charisma to pull it off as a single, or if they just lost faith in him making that run on his own like that. But as soon as he got in that picture, he was out just as fast, it seemed like.
Right, and they teamed him back up with Darren Young, and then just all of a sudden he snapped because of a losing streak and just went heel.
Right.
But
and that didn't last too long.
Seriously as a heel, because we know how he is outside,
right,
so to speak. But I really don't want to dwell on that. That really lost my interest. So, our next segment we have Kurt Angle. He comes out to address the WWE Universe. Well, again, like I say, the fans. It comes down to discuss what happened between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. How both men are hurt. Roman Reigns re-injured his ribs and his shoulder. He's got internal bleeding. And Braun Strowman has a torn rotator cuff. So they're both going to be out for a while. But they both basically stated that, they're not done with each other. But in lieu of this, the lights hit. And Bray Wyatt's music hits. And introduces himself and just offers to shake Kurt Angle's hand. Now, the entire time, Kurt Angle doesn't know what to make of this at all. I mean, he looks confused, scared, and he probably looks like he wants to shit himself. Plain and simple. Wyatt basically states that the chapter's closed on Orton, and he's discussing what his plans are more or less. And says to Angle, either he asks him if he's going to walk by his side or stand in his way. And Kurt Angle says, I don't know what your plans are, but just remember this is my show. And Bray Wyatt laughs and says, this may be your show, Mr. Angle, but this is my world. And the lights hit, and that's it. So I don't know where this is going to go. Again, this is going to be something that's going to be discussed later. Mm-hmm. But I have this slight feeling that he's looking towards going to Brock Lesnar, to go for the Universal Championship, because he never. Now, this is what I don't understand. Bray Wyatt was owed a rematch for the WWE Championship. Okay. Right. I was under the impression that the match at Payback was for the World Championship. Bray Wyatt wins, but it's not for the World Championship.
Well, see, I kept asking you guys each week, since we had heard of it, are you sure it's a championship match? Because all I keep hearing about is that it's a challenge to a House of Horrors, and I haven't heard anything thrown out there about the title yet. And we're like, well, he's owed his rematch, which is true. He's owed a rematch. So I thought, well, maybe that's the case, and I've just been missing it where they've been saying that it was a title match. But sure enough, they get there, and no title involved. To top it off, Jinder Mahal still had the belt. So
right.
He didn't have the belt with him when he got there.
Well, I was under the assumption it was, because nobody really necessarily stated as to whether it was, and I assumed that it was a rematch, because that's what was initially set up the night of that week from the draft, and it was pretty much assumed. But now I want to touch on this House of Horrors match real quick. What the hell was that?
Garbage.
Like, seriously, I feel like I was watching a B-rated movie.
It's a lot of hot garbage. I told you on Twitter they talked about, like I said on the recap show on Twitter, someone put on there that the only way the match could end was if Dr. Loomis showed up and shot one of them off the balcony and they fell to the ground. I mean, they were taken from several different And then to top it off, they're talking about being in California where the pay-per-view is, right? But at the same time, it's dark outside there. And all the people in California are looking out their front door going, is there an eclipse? Did I miss something? It's broad daylight. And
right. They really, this was poor planning. And this is what I have stated before on, every time I've brought it up, every time I've done the SmackDown show, there is still yet no speculation as to what exactly a House of Horrors match was. Now, don't get me wrong. Looking at how this was done, it was more or less done like a movie in the actual house match, which leads me to believe that I think Bray Wyatt would make a great movie villain. I think it would be phenomenal. The Bray Wyatt character in a movie would be awesome. But, once again, it was California. It was daylight still out, but it was dark during the match. And it ends with having a refrigerator. Look, someone's going to drop a refrigerator on me. I'm not going to be laid down for an hour. Okay? But
right.
I digress. I digress. I can't. It was just there wasn't enough build up to it, and it wasn't done the way it was supposed to be. But I'd like to step on to the next one. We had a backstage segment earlier between Neville and T.J. Perkins, and basically Neville said that Austin Aries has both of their problems, and they need to handle it, and T.J. Perkins needs to pull his weight. And Perkins pretty much told Neville that he got out of that match with the skin of his teeth. He had to basically use the referee as disqualification and hightail out of there with his belt, basically escaping with his gold. Which I thought that match in the pay-per-view was pretty solid. But this match, tonight you have T.J. Perkins versus Austin Aries. Aries is completely in control in the early stages of the match. Still coming off his loss, Aries is looking to get payback on T.J. Perkins. And he basically took control of the match for the most part until he makes a mistake. Aries charged in the corner. Perkins dodged him, causing Aries to get hung up in the corner. Perkins, being the protege of Neville now, takes advantage of it, hits him with a drop kick. Eventually Aries fights back. It spills out into Aries eventually fights back, but falls when he's whipped into the corner. And it's because of his knee. His knee took a beating at the pay-per-view. He attempts to spear, misses, and Perkins continues to work his knee. He attempts to, as Perkins tries to attempt to hurt the knee with the ring post, Aries gets his feet out of harm's way, so to speak, and sends Perkins into the ring post from the outside. Aries follows up with a suicide dive through the ropes. There's chest slaps, gut busters, pendulum elbow giving Aries momentum. He dives to the top rope and connects the elbow in the back of the neck, but Aries then is countered with the detonation kick. Aries counters the detonation kick. Sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied tonight. I can't even read my own writing. Aries counters the detonation kick with the last chancery for the win. But as Aries celebrates, Perkins takes him out from behind and hits him with that knee bar, further doing damage to the knee. But in the end, Austin Aries ends up defeating T.J. Perkins.
Yeah, and that's what I mentioned earlier, Russ. I'm sure we'll get to the whole Austin Aries bit when I mentioned that, Austin Aries and Neville's a big part of the whole 205 Live thing for me right now. They become very, very entertaining, and Austin Aries is great in that area there. I'm sure he'd be just as great if he was to be on the main roster as well, or NXT. But the whole aspect of him and Neville right now has really got me interested in the show for the most part. T.J. Perkins is really good. I mean, he's the first champion they had, and he can definitely be still a very big part of the show. I don't know if I buy the whole T.J. Perkins, bad guy like Neville bit, though. He doesn't have that same look for it.
I kind of do. I kind of enjoy it because it's one of those things that he needs it. He needs it. It's going to, it puts him in the spotlight again because it's something different. It's the
They
same
need to
aspect
highlight his
of-
cockiness, though. That's what they're not doing right. I think they need to highlight that cockiness factor about him not being a bad guy with a temper and attitude when something don't go his way. They need to highlight that cockiness factor about him and let him do his thing.
But give it due time. Give it due time, though, because it's going to lead into it. Because you have to remember, he is Neville's protege. He's learning from Neville. So if you're going to learn from somebody, okay, are you really going to sit there and be cocky to your teacher and show cockiness? Or are you still going to show that demeanor and start building up to what your mentor would like to see you become?
I guess I don't get why they're making him his mentor. I guess is what I don't get, because he was already there without having Neville as a mentor to begin with. So throwing him in that situation where he's his mentor now, I guess doesn't make a lot of sense to me, since the fact that he's already been there, done that, had the belt before, and can probably do it again, unless they're building up to an eventual showdown between Neville and T.J. Perkins for a while if Austin Aries gets that title. I don't know.
I mean, I could see that at SummerSlam, but if anything, if they would have had anybody be the mentor of Perkins, I think in the long run it should have been Brian Kendrick, because Brian Kendrick's the one to help train him. Brian Kendrick and Perkins have history. And it's been duly stated.
Right.
So, but aside from that, we also have another backstage segment. And that is the Golden Truth. Basically pleading with Kurt Angle to make them number one contenders for the tag titles. And Angle more or less said, your win-loss record does not speak volumes. But this is setting up for a tag team turmoil match next week for the number one contendership, which I feel is what's going to give Cesaro and Sheamus the number one contender spot again.
Could definitely. I mean, I thought they were already there as the number one contender without having to go through any kind of tag team turmoil. To be honest with you, I don't see why they had to go through more to show that they belong there at that point.
I get that, but at the same time, they just had a number one contenders match at Payback, and they lost. That doesn't mean they get to stay number one contenders. Well, now you need a new opponent for the champions, and you're looking at the Golden Truth, Rhino and Slater, the Club, Enzo and Cass, the Golden Truth, Cesaro and Sheamus. And it's a shame we couldn't see the Revival in it, due to injury circumstances. You have 5 teams that are going to be in there. Potentially could have been 6.
I wonder how that would have panned out if the Revival had been available for that. I wonder how that would have worked out.
I think it would have ended up still going to Cesaro and Sheamus for now.
Yeah, I just couldn't help but wonder. I mean, it just makes because they're a big thing in NXT. They can be a big thing on SmackDown. I mean, on Raw, if they wanted to. I mean, no doubt. If they had a tag team turmoil or a tag team like a thing like they had on SmackDown, like a time factor, whoever gets the best win in the time fashion or something. However they go with it, I mean, the Revival would definitely beat some of the top competitors in it.
Right, but that's why, with them not being here, I feel that's why they turned Sheamus and Cesaro heel for now. Because you can't just have the Club being heels.
No. No, you cannot.
And it makes everything stale, But speaking of, number one contendership matches, this match, this main event match, I would have to say, by far was one hell of a match. It was Finn Balor versus The Miz versus Seth Rollins for the number one contendership. Oh, before I get into that, we forgot. We had Dean Ambrose doing backstage segments with each of the contenders.
Back to you, Gorilla.
Thanks, Sean Morley.
Wasn't that some funny stuff right there? What was funny was when he was talking to Seth Rollins about he's going to name his show on the WWE Network. How about like the Today Show? No, that's already taken. Well, how about the Daily Show?
No, I was on that show. That's already a show.
Yeah.
And about how Dean Ambrose, has beaten, Rollins. Rollins has beaten Ambrose, but Rollins has new tricks up his sleeve. Well, then you go to him with Finn Balor, and finally he just looks at him and says, "For God's sakes, eat some carbs," and hands him a donut. He says, "I can see a vein poking out of your stomach." Balor takes a bite of the donut, and then Ambrose just finishes it. But then you hear a guitar playing, and I think it's right now is the greatest gimmick they got going with the director right now. It's just him wandering around playing the guitar. But and it was definitely funny. But it leads to this match, and it starts off with the Miz, exiting the ring as soon as the match starts, leaving Balor and Rollins to continue what they initially started at SummerSlam. The Miz periodically tries to re-enter the ring as Balor and Rollins lock up, eventually drawing, either Balor or Rollins to follow him out, force him to get back in the ring with no escape. Miz tries to plead, but they double team him eventually. Rollins, tries to get roll up Balor for a 2 count, which obviously doesn't work. Rollins then looks to try to sunset flip Balor, and him with a drop kick working in the corner. Balor dodges Rollins, hits him with the enziguri before the Miz sweeps his legs out from under him. So now the Miz is once again inserting himself, after trying to play chicken the whole time. Well, the Miz tries to use Maurice as a shield as Rollins tries to go for a suicide dive, and then uses her as a shield when Balor comes in. Well, while Balor's distracted and Maurice is standing in the way, Rollins dives on the Miz, which I think was great. And then we see the Miz all over Balor and Rollins. While Rollins is down ringside. Balor fights his way into a headlock, or finds his way in a headlock, and he gets out of it. And Rollins gets back into the ring. The battle keeps going. Rollins dives onto Balor from the top rope, and he really looked like he landed awkwardly on his shoulder, as Balor went to counter. So that's probably going to be something to watch. I don't know if he got injured on that. But if he did, talk about irony.
Oh, yeah.
But Balor, at one point, Balor and Rollins are both on their knees, and Miz starts to hit the infamous yes kicks. And he tries to hit the final kick, but Balor dodges it and pushes the Miz towards Rollins. And Rollins catches him. And I found this to be the best spot of the night, in my opinion.
It was nice.
Balor hits the dropkick on Rollins, causing Rollins to go back and hit Miz with the DDT at the same time.
Yeah, that was a pretty sweet combination there.
Without a doubt, Balor's hitting Miz, hitting Rollins with the chops in the corner. Hits Miz with an enziguri, sending him outside. He then clotheslines Rollins out of the ring. Balor follows it up with a PK to the Miz, which he follows up with a drop kick to Rollins. The punt kick right to Miz's face.
Right.
That's what the PK is. And that looked like a solid shot to the Miz's face. I mean, it knocked him for a loop. And it's, they get back to the ring. Balor hits Rollins with the 1916 and the Miz breaks it up at a 2 count. Then you got Balor hitting Rollins with the sling blade, and he's about ready to set up for the finish, but the Miz ends up grabbing Balor's feet again and pulls him down into the ring post. And basically grabs Rollins' leg and drops down to his knees, hyperextending his leg, and puts him into a figure 4. And just when it looks like Rollins is going to submit, Balor breaks up the submission and hits Rollins with a Pele kick. Rollins replied to that with a super kick. and hits a double blockbuster from the middle rope before hitting Balor with a frog splash for, again, another 2 count. Rollins hits Miz with a superplex. Superplex.
Super suplex.
Infamous, yes, the super suplex. Into his roll through into the Falcon's Arrow. And somehow the Miz manages to kick out. And Rollins follows up with a double suicide dive, but outside, out of nowhere, comes Samoa Joe and hits him with a Uranagi outside the ring, and basically screaming at him, walks away.
I was wondering when that was going to happen too. By the way, yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if and when we were going to see Joe. You know, and it wasn't a matter of if; it was only a matter of when. Balor ends up capitalizing on that by hitting the Miz with the sling blade before heading to the top rope. Well, now here's where it gets interesting, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. The lights go out, and out comes Bray Wyatt, standing in the ring, pushes Balor off the top rope, hits him with Sister Abigail, and then disappears, leaving the Miz and Balor the only ones in the ring. And which now leaves the Miz as your new #1 contender for the Intercontinental title. Now, this is what gets me, okay? Last week, Bray Wyatt came out to help the Miz. This week, once again, he comes out to help the Miz.
But don't forget, even though last week he came out to help, he also put Sister Abigail on the Miz before he left.
Right. But now you're going to have the Demon versus the Eater of Worlds.
Right. It just makes it that much more confusing as to why he came out and helped this week, unless it was just a shot, as you're saying, unless it was just a shot at Finn Balor.
Right. And like I said, I think it's going to make, for something interesting, especially after he told Kurt Angle that this is his world.
Right.
And I sat back watching him do this promo, and I think back to when Bray first appeared on the main roster, and he looked like, what was his name from the 90s? You know exactly what I'm talking about.
The character that Dan Spivey played?
Jennings.
No, Waylon Mercy.
Waylon Mercy, sorry. Waylon Jennings is the singer.
He's a country star.
Yes. They're all from the South. But, he comes out looking like that, and I'm trying to think to myself, when did he start transitioning into this new look Bray Wyatt? But it's working. But I think that seeing those two go at it, which I believe the next Raw pay-per-view is going to be Battleground, it's going to be
look
good.
and see for sure. I'm not positive 100%, but
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to go back. I'm pretty sure it's going to go Backlash for SmackDown, Battleground for Raw, and then Money in the Bank for SmackDown, leading into WrestleMania.
Are we talking in order from now, you mean?
Yes, I meant leading into SummerSlam.
Okay, I started to say because you passed SummerSlam completely. But yeah,
they're already advertising. They're already advertising WrestleMania for next year. So,
I mean, you know what? I hate that stuff too. How can you be talking about matches for next year at WrestleMania when you haven't even got past SummerSlam, you haven't gotten past Survivor Series, you haven't gotten past the Royal Rumble, but you're already talking about, well, next year we're talking about main eventing possibly Nakamura and AJ Styles.
Right.
I mean, come on.
But,
give us a break. Build it up at least. Give us some mystery a little bit.
Right. But you're looking at it this way. You got Backlash next. And like I said,
when is SummerSlam? What month is SummerSlam in?
August.
I mean, really, how many more pay-per-views can they do between, two between now and August? Three. We just started in May. Never mind. May, June, July. Yeah. 4, I guess, if they really want to put 2 in 1 month. They've done it before, haven't they?
Well, you got to remember, Backlash is the 21st or 22nd of this month, which they have an NXT takeover right before that. June, I think, is, well, Battleground usually falls in July. No. I don't even know anymore. I really don't even know anymore. Because it's getting out of hand. 2 pay-per-views a month. Like,
I mean, they've done it
before.
They've done it
They should
before.
alternate pay-per-views like they did in the last brand split to give proper time to build up storylines for each pay-per-view.
Right. Well, they should just cut back on some of the pay-per-views. We don't have to have one per month. We don't have to.
Well, I mean, not one from each brand. We can have one each month, but alternate months.
Well, even if you didn't have one from each brand, I'm saying you don't have to have one per month in general. It could always go back to being different like it was before. We didn't always have. Well, we had the big 4 each year, and that was it. Then they had to add a 5th one. Next thing you know, we got stuff popping up like a Money in the Bank introduction or a Royal Rumble introduction. We've got the whole Payback series. The Tables, Ladders, and Chairs shows up one year, and then they just keep adding it and making it an official year-to-year thing. It's okay to come up with a special pay-per-view sometimes and call it one thing. Case in point, Great Balls of Fire. Hopefully they don't keep continuing that each year.
Right.
We get to the point to where it's more about them getting the money than it is the buildup of the product. I really believe they should go back and cut back on some of the amounts of pay-per-views. Cut out the least important ones. Cut out your Payback. Cut out your I don't know. Give me another one like Payback. What's another one like that? Cut out TLC. That's not that important.
No, I enjoy TLC.
But you can still have TLC matches, but cut out the TLC pay-per-view in general. You don't have to have it. There's quite a few more they could cut out. If I had the list in front of me, I'd go down the list and tell you what I think they would cut out. You got to keep WrestleMania. You got to keep SummerSlam. You got to keep the Rumble. You got to keep the Survivor Series. And if you had to throw one more in there as a 5th one, if you want to keep one more as a 5th one, what would you say?
See, that's tough. See, I would make a Money in the Bank an interpromotional match because all contenders are eligible. But in the same turn, I would make a Night of Champions,
Matter of
Clash
fact,
of Champions, and have all the championship belts on the line.
Give me 2 more other than what I said. All right, 2 more. If you want to do Night of Champions,
Money in the Bank and Clash of Champions.
All right, so that's the 2. So have 6 a year, one every couple of months. That gives you a little more leeway time to build up something stronger. At least do that.
Right.
Nothing really wrong with that. I mean, we still get a lot of entertainment. It's just the company won't get that. They won't get their pockets any deeper with that monthly pay-per-view sellout that they have wherever they go, selling all that merchandise there. They have to go to more house shows than what they're doing probably to make up for it.
Well,
if they really wanted to.
They're losing the money anyway because of the fact that, they have the network now.
But they're still selling out the pay-per-views, though. People are still going to those because they're the big events.
Right, but
your Raws and your SmackDowns are hurting for attendance, more Raw than SmackDown, but you're still hurting for attendance with those. So, I mean, they can easily fix that by cutting back the venue they go to. Go to some smaller venues where you still look sold out. Do you remember when Raw is War first came on television? Or I don't know if that was the original name of it or not, but they were smaller venues where they were at. You could see the people in the nosebleed seats, just like you could in ECW. Whenever they had their show, you could see the people, and it wasn't that big of a place, but they sold out each show. It was loud, it was crazy. They could do that, but they think too big sometimes, and they want to go that way and stay that way. And you can't always stay big like that. Sometimes you're going to have to go scale back down a little bit. And I think they're at that situation right now. Even though they're 2 brands, you don't have to have, 12 pay-per-views or 13 pay-per-views or 14 pay-per-views, whatever it is they have total. Because there were a time where a couple of months a year I think they do 2 in 1 month. And I'm not taking away from NXT. NXT is a separate thing altogether, for as far as I'm concerned.
Right, and that only happens normally every 2 or 4 months, 2 or 3, no, every 3 months usually.
But, right, like once a quarter, basically.
Right, and the only reason it's happening so close this time is because it's right after, it's starting their new season of takeovers.
Right.
From what I feel, but still, it's getting to be too much. It really is. I don't know. There's only so much you can do anymore, and it's hurting the business. And I understand that they're trying to, line their pockets, so to speak. But look at it this way, okay? If you go back to, cable providers wanting to put on the pay-per-views, all right, well, now you're getting $50 a household, okay, for these pay-per-views. Well, the problem is, if you're doing it on the network, like, for me, example, I have 2 people that use my WWE network to watch the pay-per-views.
Right.
You're losing money. There's $100 you're losing right there on a house, the 2 households combined.
But when you're charging $50 a pop, how many people are they going to lose anyway if they don't put it on the network and they charge $50 to watch it? I, for one, will not be watching it at $50. I will learn about it the next day. When the pay-per-views got so far out of hand a while back, if you remember, before we got access to the for the network, and they were putting up there anywhere from $39 to $49 to the pay-per-views, I was having to pick which few out of the year I could get, because I could not do a monthly $40 or $50 for that and be able to do anything else I want to get out and do and have fun without just putting myself out on some other area. And there's a lot of other people out there who are worse off than what I might be that can't afford it either at that point. So it's crazy to do that. That's why we have this network now, that they want to charge different prices for the network on scales of what you're going to get. You might pay so much money a month and get access to the pay-per-views only each month. I believe they brought this up once before. There might be a package where you got the top 4 pay-per-views plus access to, the whatever you want to call it, the vault or whatever, with all the old stuff in it. Go back and rewatch all the old shows and old pay-per-views. They can do different things like that and still make good money. But I mean, that's all it is, though. It's all about the money, because they're paying these guys a crap ton of money now compared to what they used to pay them. A lot of them are anyway. They're getting merchandise money. They're getting high six-figure salaries, and then even the ones that aren't that great are getting in the high 5-figure salaries. And their travel paid for, their hotels paid for, and all this other stuff. And I'm not saying that's not great. I mean, if you're in that business and you're like the Heath Slaters, or even the Rhino now, who's not as big as he used to be when he was years ago, or someone like that, and you're only making $75,000 a year as a salary to that company, and they're paying for all your stuff to go places, that's great for you. What I'm talking about is why is John Cena and Triple H worth $800,000 or $900,000, and then they get their money for the merchandise sale on top of it? If you're going to do that, that's why they're charging, money that they charge for tickets for the pay-per-views, the ungodly amount of money it costs to get the WrestleMania tickets or the WrestleMania package they had. And then you have one a month you're going to pay and go to, and payback might not be as much as a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam is, but I'm sure it's still going to be a pretty high dollar ticket to get ringside seats or in the first 20 rows. You're probably dropping $100 a ticket, easy. So to me, it's just all about them filling their pockets with money more than anything, Ray.
And I agree, Chris. It's getting bad. It really is. It really, really is. But Well, speaking of, the way things used to be, I might now don't be upset if it doesn't happen, ladies and gentlemen, but I have been in talks with a man from WCW who was an in-ring competitor in the latter years. But possibly this Wednesday, I'm waiting on word back. I may have the Cat, Ernest Miller.
And I don't know how many people remember Ernest the Cat Miller. I liked him. I remember watching him when he was there. I remember when he was there before he was with Sonny Ono, and he was on his own and everything. And I thought he was very entertaining to watch when he first came out. Now, in his latter years, not quite so entertaining to me for the most part. He did have some entertaining factor left that I liked, but I liked watching him on there.
Well,
do you remember any of his big feuds he had?
Glacier, I know, was a big one. That I know for a fact. It's been so long. I mean, I know he did show up in WWE at the Royal Rumble. But that's honestly, like I said, you got to remember, it's been 15, 20 years, and he wasn't in WCW very long.
Right. Yeah, he was there long.
Be good.
Yeah, and it was during the time of Monday Nitro, basically. He was there during the Nitro years.
Right. But
or at least early parts.
For those that may not have watched WCW, you can also look at, if you've ever seen the movie The Wrestler. He was in the final match against Mickey Rourke.
I never watched that movie.
Really?
I never have. I'm not sure if I really want to be honest with you.
I thought it was listen, if you like Marissa Tomei, she's in it and she's naked.
Maybe I'll watch The Wrestler. I don't know. Marissa Tomei. I'm trying to think. Now, Marissa Tomei. What else has she been in? She was
My Cousin Vinny.
God. My Cousin Vinny. There you go. That's the most notable movie for me right there. Marissa Tomei in it. My Cousin Vinny, I believe.
Yeah, she also played. She's also playing Peter Parker's mother in the new Spider-Man.
Right. I think she got her start on television, though, did she not? Different World or something like that.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm not 100%. I had to look it up, but that's not really wrestling related, so I won't go run and look at it right now. But right. The movie The Wrestler, I never really got much into the thought of it. I mean, and then whenever they tried to work it into WCW as a part of the plot, I mean, I didn't know what to think of it. I mean, because he kind of had an older Chris Jericho look about him at the time. He kind of had an appearance like Jericho, but like Mother Nature hadn't been kind to him when you've seen it. So, I mean, it just wouldn't do it. I mean, I get it, and I might even like it if I watched it, It's basically the life of a wrestler where it's hard for him to give it up and quit doing what he likes doing most. And I know, spoiler alert here for anybody who hasn't watched it. I haven't watched it, but I think I've heard this, right? So, spoiler alert, turn your radio down, 3, 2, 1. I believe he dies in the ring.
Nobody knows. It just ends.
It just ends. So I don't know. Someone had told me that. I don't know if that happened for sure or not.
Right. Well, look, going back to Ernest Miller. Ernest Miller debuted in '97, and he's a martial arts guy, and he only wrestled in WCW for 2 years. And he was a commissioner for like a year until WCW folded. And then he wrestled actually 2 years in the WWE, mainly dark matches. He was an announcer on Velocity for about 6 months. Then he appeared in the Rumble, and then that was it. You know, he was released in 2004.
I don't remember him being in the WWE. I don't remember his time in WWE. I'm sure he was, but I just don't remember ever seeing him there. I must not have watched it much at the time or noticed him that much. No, I don't even remember in the Royal Rumble. Who won the Rumble the year he was in it?
That was 2004. So, Benoit? Yes, Benoit won it that year.
Let's see what's anything about him in here. I'm looking him up right now.
But the funny thing is, somebody called my mama was his catchphrase that was used in WCW. He ended up with the song, somebody call my mama, and 8 years later it was used for Brodus Clay.
That's kind of funny, too. It tells right here, outside of pro wrestling, Miller had a significant role in the Academy Award-nominated The Wrestler as the Ayatollah, in-ring nemesis of Randy the Ram Robinson, Mickey Rourke. He played Ernie Shavers opposite Michael Jai White in a 2008 Chinese television series, The Legend of Bruce Lee, and appeared in the 2009 film Blood and Bone. So he's had a little bit of stuff outside of the ring that he's done. You know, other than that, now WWE 2002 to 2004, you got it right here. He appeared in 2004 Royal Rumble match, making his entrance along with manager Lamont. While the other two people in the ring, Chris Benoit and Randy Orton, were knocked down, Miller and Lamont proceeded to dance to his theme music, not bothering to capitalize on the advantage he'd been given. When they got up, both men quickly tossed him from the ring. So he's one of those people that showed up just for a minute for the appearance and the humor aspect, it looks like. Wasn't anything serious about the whole Rumble bit. As a matter of fact, his whole time there was probably not there. Was more just of a humor aspect.
It was more of an announcer, yeah. But he's had feuds with Wrath and Mortis when he was teaming with Glacier. He feuded with, Kaz Hayashi. He feuded with Scott Norton.
Jerry Flynn, I believe.
Yeah, Jerry Flynn. A little bit with Buff Bagwell. Then he became a commissioner. His last, he feuded a little bit with the Great Muta. Let's see. He basically he ended his career in WCW with a feud with Canyon and Road Warrior Animal, but it never went anywhere because the company got bought out.
Yeah. Well, regardless of career and everything, I'm sure he'll still have a lot of stories to talk about as well as his career and everything. That'll be very definitely interesting to hear if we do get him on. I would look forward to listening to it just as much as I have the other ones you've had so far. So they definitely don't disappoint. So anybody who is hearing this, definitely make a point to kind of keep up with that. Keep a watch on our social media pages to see if we talk about it being out there for sure. And we'll definitely let you know where you can take a listen to it.
Right, and I know we're coming down to probably about 6 or 7 minutes left on the clock, so to speak.
Just past the 6-minute mark.
Everybody be sure to follow us here on Blog Talk. You guys can check the calendar. At the start of the week, I try to update, our shows weekly, so that way you guys have a few days' notice on what's to come, and as far as guests are concerned, and what our Sunday show is going to be out, or what it's going to be on, I should say. Be sure to hit that follow button. We have a Patreon account as well. You donate $50. You get to sit in on an interview. You get your name drawn to sit in on an interview with me. You donate $25. Your name gets thrown into a hat to co-host, a SmackDown recap show or a Raw recap show. You donate $10. You become part of the Patreon monthly club. Even donating $1 or $2 helps. And basically, let us know who you would like to see on the show, and we'll do our damn hardest to get that guest on there. Be sure to follow us, and please, share our videos when we upload them. If you listen to us on Facebook, share them, spread the word. We've had a lot of great interviews since I've come on board, I've gotten to interview Shane Taylor, Keith Lee, Lance Hoyt, Sonny Ono, Jimmy Corderas, Dave Penzer, Kim Artlett, Zachy Monstar. I've had some amazing interviews, and I continue to work on getting more interviews. Chris as well continues to work on getting more interviews for me to be able to give to you guys, to shed more light on, the ins and the outs of the wrestling world and some of your favorite, wrestlers, athletes, whomever it may be, referee, announcer, managers' careers.
And for those of you who have been sharing the videos and other things that we have been putting up there, who have been sharing our tweets and retweeting them for us as well, liking the stuff, liking the videos, liking the pages, it does make a difference, just so you guys know, and I want to thank you personally right now, because I have noticed that in the last month, the Twitter page has, I want to say, gotten 30 to 35 additional followers on there, whereas it was at a stalemate for the longest, not doing anything. The YouTube page has gotten, probably since we first started uploading all these things here in the last few months, it got to about 20 and stayed there for about a year, 20 to 22. Now we're sitting at 58. We're slowly climbing up. It's a definite slow-going thing. The views are coming in greatly, but the subscribers are not exactly getting there as much as the views are. So if you continue to share these videos for us and push them forward, that's what makes the subscribers and followers start to come around more often, because you're not going to get a subscriber or a follower for every person that views your material, right, Ray? It's not going to happen like that. You're going to get your likes from people. They're going to watch it. They're going to listen to it. And then eventually every so many people, you're going to get a follower and a subscriber. So the more you share it for us, the more people see it. Share it with your friends list. That's what I try to encourage a lot of my friends to do. When I share it, especially if I tag them in it, I would get them to go ahead and share it on their page and tag some of their friends that like wrestling. That way it goes specifically to them. And if they have any groups that they're a part of or other friends like to watch, they do the same thing. Before you know it, Ray, we got something viral out there. So thank you once again, everybody, for participating in it. Hopefully you continue to do that for us.
Right, exactly. Every little bit counts. Even one share counts. And helps. But we're not going to sit here and beg everybody. We don't want to be those guys. We just appreciate everybody that does listen. And if you want to, if you would like to, we appreciate it as well.
I was having fun tooting my own horn over here. I guess I got to quit now.
I thought Mike was the horn tutor. Oh, I got
Mike's
a horn
not
for
here,
him,
though.
too.
If Mike's not here, you know what? Take a shot at Mike. He took one at you last night. It's your turn. Go ahead. Get it out.
Wait a minute. He took a shot at me last night? Well, I'll be damned. Money Mike Currents. Oh, God.
It's
what?
how it goes.
I can't even,
when one person's not there, we rake them over the coals, remember?
I can't even waste my breath on such rubbish.
Rubbish. Do you think Mike's listening right now? Is he listening to us? Will he hear this later on?
I hope he is. You know what? I hope he's sitting in the dark hole crying. Crying while his wife beats him.
We're coming into the last minute here, Ray, so we'll go ahead and wind things up. And, once again, like Ray said, definitely follow us at places. Follow us at Body Slam the Comp at Twitter, Body Slam the Competition, both on Facebook and Instagram. And if you type in the words bodyslamthecompetition.com, that will take you to our YouTube page, where you can hopefully hit that big red subscribe button and be a part of our show to get updates when we do upload videos, to alert you to something there. And one more place to go to, blogtalkradio.com/bodyslamthecompetition. Right below the profile picture is the follow button to hit, and that will get you emails of all our upcoming shows and as soon as we put them out there. So, Ray, it's been great tonight.
Check out the archives, and also be sure to follow me on Twitter at Jetsman84, JETSMAN84. I'm the spotlight interviewer for those that haven't heard, for those that are new to the show, and for those that are, regular listeners. You guys know where to find me. Just send me a tweet. Let me know who you want me to get on the show. Let me know who you're highly interested in, and I will do my best. And, like Chris said, you can follow him at at Body Slam the Con. You know, you usually see us tagging each other in whatever we can. So, for Chris Adams, I am Ray Filipino. We'll see you guys tomorrow night for our SmackDown recap. And everybody, safe travels.